Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, if you do enjoy the video that you came here to watch, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that little red subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. It really does help my audience grow. It really does help this channel grow. It means more than you realize. So go ahead, hit that little red button. Also, remember, full episodes of the Aaron Torres podcast, wherever you download your podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. Now, here is the video that you came here for.
Well, there was one piece of news on an otherwise quiet day that I do want to discuss, and it involves one of my favorite people in college football, bar none, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. So on Sunday, a little show called 60 Minutes. Not sure if you've heard of it. It's been on TV for about 70 years. I hope you have heard of it. By the way, if you've heard of the Aaron Torres pod, but not 60 Minutes, shout out to you. You're my favorite kind of human. But with that said, 60 Minutes on Sunday aired an interview with Deion Sanders, and he actually addressed something that I think all of us in college football are curious about. What would happen if one of these big time schools with a big time job opening were actually to offer him a job? And I'm going to tell you what he said in a minute. But before we get into it, I need to give you a little bit of context, because what I can tell you point blank, Deion Sanders is one of the most fascinating people that we have ever seen on the coaching carousel for a number of different reasons. One, I think we all know he's Coach Prime, played in the NFL, Hall of Famer, icon. But what I think a lot of people underestimate, this guy is a really good football coach, okay? Like, I think there's this thought that, oh, people want to hire him because he's Deion Sanders. Well, that's certainly a part of it. But if he had the resume that he's building at Jackson State and his name was Mike Smith instead of Deion Sanders, he would still be a very hot coaching candidate. Right now, Jackson State currently sits at 6-0 this season. And I don't claim to be a SWAC FCS expert, but they've won 4 of their games by 30-plus points in this season. 6-0, 30-plus point wins in 3 games. That sounds pretty freaking good to me. On top of that, you go back to last year, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. He went 11-2 last year, 11-1 against FCS opponents. So he did play an FBS team, lost a game to a team that had more scholarship players, recruited at a different level, all that stuff. So in his last 2 years, he is now 17-1 against like-minded competition, against competition that is competing on the same level as him, with the same scholarships as him, with the same resources as him. He's sitting in a little ho-hum 17-1 with 4 wins by 30-plus points this year. Beyond that, he's already done something that a lot of guys, frankly, at the highest levels of college football has not yet proven their ability to do. Deion Sanders has proved and proven, that's probably the right word I should use, he has proven that he can recruit at the highest levels of college football. We all know about Travis Hunter, the #1 high school player in America who could have gone to anywhere, was committed to Florida State, recruited by Georgia, Alabama, you name it, and decided at the last minute, rather than sign with Florida State, he was going to go to Jackson State. I don't know the number of coaches in college football right now that have signed the #1 prospect in America. I bet you could probably count them on 1 to 1.5 hands. And I bet none of them ever did it at the FCS level. I know for a fact none of them did it because Deion was the first to do it. I think what's also important to know with Deion, I think people forget, everybody remembers Travis Hunter. He also signed a high 4-star named Kevin Coleman, a wide receiver last year that was like ranked somewhere in like the 50 to 60 range in the 24/7 recruiting rankings. To me, that's important. Anybody can make one huge splash, but he signed 2 top 60 players. There aren't a lot of programs in college football that did that last year. I'll give you an example. Hate to throw a guy under the bus. Brian Harsin, the coach at Auburn, has never signed a player as highly ranked as the 2 players that Deion Sanders signed last year. So he's already proven he can do something that a lot of school coaches haven't, including the guy currently sitting at Auburn, who I don't think we think is going to have a job for very much longer. Finally, what I would say is why Deion is such a fascinating character on the coaching carousel. Beyond the win-loss record and the recruiting, I don't think anybody really knows what Deion wants out of his coaching experience. Now, one thing he did say in that 60 Minutes interview, he said, I don't want to coach in the NFL because I love football so much that if a guy's making millions and he doesn't love it as much as me. I think the exact quote he used, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said, I'd choke him out at halftime. Like, I can't deal with guys that are being paid millions that don't love football. So we know he's not going to the NFL. But what's interesting about Deion Sanders, we don't know what his end game is, right? Because for most coaches, the end game is obvious. You get to the highest level you can, the most money you can get get paid the most, set up your family for the next, 2-3 generations, right? Like Lincoln Riley, Mario Cristobal, Brian Kelly, their families are set for a very long time because they got to the highest levels, made the most money, and they're pretty good to go. Well, Deion's already made tens of millions of dollars. And so nobody really knows what his end game is. Is it to coach at the highest level? Is it to make the most money? Or is it to continue to have success at the HBCU level and elevate HBCU programs as a whole? Something he's talked about quite a bit. And so nobody really knows. He keeps a tight inner circle because of who he is. He doesn't have to do all the media song and dance that all these other candidates have to do to get their names out there and to keep them out there. And so we really don't know what Deion's end game is. With that said, let's get to what he actually said, because, I did a long song and dance to get to what he said, but he was asked specifically on 60 Minutes if he would actually be interested in taking one of these Power 5 jobs at the highest levels of coaching. Here is what Deion Sanders said on 60 Minutes. He said, and I quote, he said, "I'm going to have to entertain it. Yes, I'm going to have to entertain it. Straight up, I'd be a fool not to." To which I say, if you're an Auburn fan that wants Deion Sanders as your head coach, I would be dancing in the streets right now. And I'd be calling up your big boosters, Jimmy Rain and everybody else, and saying, hey, let's back up the Brinks truck for Deion Sanders if that's who you believe is the best head coach. Now, I think Auburn, when they fire Brian Harsin, is going to have some great candidates. I think Hugh Freeze is going to be great. If Lane Kiffin wants a job, he's great. But if you believe that that Deion Sanders is the guy, that is the exact quote that you want to hear. I'm going to have to entertain it. Yes, I'm going to have to entertain it. Straight up, I'd be a fool not to. And so what I would say is a couple things. I know there's a couple people probably listening, Torres, that doesn't mean anything. Of course, what is he going to say? He can't deny it, because if he denies it, then that means that if he ever takes a job, people will use it against him. Well, I do sort of agree with that. I would push back a little bit and let me explain why. Here's why. It's because of something pretty simple. There is a way where if you really have no interest in leaving the HBCU level or leaving the FCS level, you can say it in a way where you kind of leave things open-ended, but also make it clear that you're happy there, right? Like there is a way that he could say, listen, my dream isn't to coach at the highest. Let me be Deion Sanders, who really has no interest in coaching at the Power 5 level. I get asked the same question. Are you going to coach at the Power 5 level? Here's what I would say if I had no interest at all. I'd say, well, you never say never. I'm 1,000% happy here. And listen, could my priorities change in 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now? Is there a job or two, including my alma mater, that I would have to listen to? Absolutely. But for the most part, this is where I want to be, and this is who I want to be coaching. And I can't see a scenario where I'm leaving Jackson State unless it is the perfect opportunity. By the way, I did that right off the top of my head. I could be a head coach. I couldn't call X's and O's. I couldn't call plays, but I got the coach speak down to a science. So there are ways that Deion Sanders could have answered that question that very much could have framed it in a much different way. But that is not how he framed it at all. Instead, he said, I'm going to have to entertain it. Yeah, I'm going to have to entertain it. Straight up, I'd be a fool not to. And so, like I said, if you're one of these schools that is interested in Deion Sanders, I think this is a great day. I don't know who represents him. I don't know who his agent is. But if I'm that person, if I'm an AD at one of these schools that's available, I'm getting on the phone and calling right away and saying, hey, can I get 10 minutes with Deion? Can I get a sit down with Deion? Because I think he's interested. Now, I don't think he's going to leave for any job, right? Like, obviously, I don't think he's a perfect fit at Wisconsin as an example. I can't see Deion doing dairy farms. Okay. I don't think that's where we're going with this one. I don't think Colorado has the money or the resources. ASU, I don't know. I mean, do they have the money? Do they have the resources? Do they have whatever? But I'll tell you this, it does sound to me like he's interested. Now, keep in mind this, and he's interested in other jobs, maybe Auburn, maybe another SEC job. Obviously, Florida State. It sounds like he's at least interested. And it is worth noting, by the way, he's mentioned that he's interviewed for Power Fives. Mentioned that he interviewed for Arkansas when Sam Pittman got the job. What I found interesting, and I don't think people have talked about it enough, he said that he interviewed for TCU. TCU, the only time that they've opened in the last, let me rephrase. The only time the TCU job has opened this century was last offseason, which means as recently as last offseason, he was interviewing for jobs. And so I bring it up to say, if I'm an Auburn fan today that wants Deion, if I'm a Georgia Tech fan, remember, Deion played in Atlanta, that wants Deion, I think today's a great day. Listen, I don't think he's going to take every job, but I'll tell you, that quote to me was very revealing. And that quote to me, I think it means that he is probably more interested in moving up the Power 5 ladder than I thought. Because again, it's hard to gauge, it's hard to know, it's hard to read him. But I got the sense he's coaching in the group of 5 or the FCS. He's coaching at HBCUs and he loves it. Well, I get the sense that he's open to listening, and I get the sense that for the right job, he's willing to leave. So Auburn, back up those Brinks trucks. Georgia Tech, I don't know how good your booster situation is, but figure it out. Deion is ready. Coach, let me put it this way. Coach Prime is ready for prime time. Make it happen, guys. Make it happen.